Hey guys, before I start this review, I just want to say there's some spoilerly elements. I'm not going to spoil like the ending or like the how the final battle goes per se, even though it could be obvious, but um, there could be spoilers. So just stop right here, go see Man of Steel, come back to me and talk to me later. Hey there, folks. This is the Lon Chaney reviewer. I just came back from Man of Steel. This was the Walmart screening that they had, where you basically went there on May 18th, and you would buy your tickets there. And then today, on Thursday, you get an advanced screening. Of course, I know other people have had screenings before this one, but as like a member of the general public, someone who doesn't have press creds or anything like that, I have seen this movie in 2D. I didn't see it in 3D. I'm seeing it in 3D tomorrow, and I might do a follow-up video on that. But right now, let me just start off by saying, overall, I really enjoyed it. And I think it's a solid start for the DC Universe. Let me describe my history with Superman before I get into anything else with this movie. I enjoyed the first two Superman movies. I think the first one is a classic, the second one's a pretty good sequel. 3 and 4 are terrible, and then Superman Returns. I want to know what your thoughts on Superman Returns. I want to know your thoughts on that, but my opinion, I did not like Superman Returns. I saw it twice in the theater. I rewatched it recently, and there's a lot of problems in that movie. I mean, there's always problems in any movie, but Superman Returns is very problematic in my opinion, for many reasons I will not get into. I might do another video just on Superman Returns. Man of Steel, basically what you have here is a reboot of the Superman origin story. Now, obviously you have Jor-El and his wife sending Kal-El to Earth, because the planet is about to die, and they're trying to preserve the Kryptonian legacy, and he thinks that Kal-El can do some good as almost like an ambassador. Not really an ambassador, but just maybe a meeting of the two species, humans and Kryptonians. Then you have General Zod, played by Michael Shannon, and I forgot to say Jor-El is played by Russell Crowe. I'll get to his performance in a minute, but Michael Shannon's character is the military leader of Krypton, and in this movie it's revealed that every Kryptonian, unless you're natural born, I guess. I don't know. I gotta watch it again, like I said, but the way they said that it was that every Kryptonian has a purpose. For instance, let's just say I was on Krypton, and they had movies on Krypton, and then I was born as a movie reviewer. They would train me my entire life to be a movie critic. Or let's just say you were born to be a soldier. They'd be like, Sparta, where they train you your entire life just to be a soldier. This is what happened with Zod. Zod's destiny was to preserve the legacy and protect Krypton. And you do see where he is, in a sense, kind of evil, but in the sense you also see him trying to preserve the legacy of his planet, which I thought made him a more three-dimensional character. And while I like the Zod in Superman 1 and 2, I really enjoyed Michael Shannon's Zod because he was menacing, but at the same time in some ways you understood where he was coming from, because he's trying to preserve his species. In terms of the rest of the plot, well, after Kal-El's capsule arrives on Earth, it crash lands, then we get to a fishing boat, like you've seen in a lot of the early trailers for this movie. And basically that's the beginning of Clark doing various jobs and going around from place to place, trying to find himself, trying to rediscover himself. And every time he tries to do something, he ends up running away because he sticks to his father's principle of, you gotta conceal yourself. You don't know how people are going to react to you. I mean, when I say his father, I mean his Earth father, played by Kevin Costner, plays the role of Jonathan Kent, who I also think is very good in this movie. And then in the scenes of his childhood, they're mostly flashbacks. They're flashbacks to his childhood. Like, for instance, there's a scene where, the bus scene, and the bus, goes into the water, and Clark has to save the bus. and his father kind of yells at him about it because it's just like you have to keep this a secret. You don't know how people are going to react, and you know, in a sense, you can say that's irresponsible, but of a parent for Jonathan Kent to say that because you know Clark can do a lot of good for the planet, but at the same time, he doesn't know how the government, how the world's going to react to something like Kal-El. So when he becomes an adult eventually, well, he's already an adult anyway. Like I said, these are a lot of the childhood scenes are flashbacks. All of them are actually. And then we have him. We have Lois Lane, who's been tracking him down for some time. Lois Lane's played by Amy Adams, a very good actress in my opinion. She's good in this film, but she doesn't have good chemistry with Henry Cavill, which I haven't even talked about him yet. Henry Cavill, or Henry Cavill, I don't know how to pronounce his name, I gotta look that up. I'm so sorry if you're watching this, Henry, but he was really good as Superman. Now, obviously, it's hard for me to say whether he is the definitive Superman, because, let's face it, we've had Christopher Reeves in 4 movies, and we had Brandon Routh in 2006 that left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. What do I like about his Superman? Unfortunately, they don't give him as much dialogue as you would think they would give him. That's my only problem with him. But I think in terms of performance and stature with the Superman character, he does a great job with that. And there's very emotional scenes where he sells it. He really sells it. And that's very important for this character. You have to try to connect to Superman on a more human level. So, there you go. That's Henry Cavill. Trying to think. In terms of the action scenes. Now, Christopher Nolan produced this film, and a lot of people like to make fun of Christopher Nolan for the way he edits and shoots his action sequences, because a lot of people complain, I don't see anything. This film, it's almost the complete opposite. There's a lot of action. And obviously, Zack Snyder, the director, is very good at doing stuff like that. My only problem is that there was so much action that it almost took away from the emotional story. Like, I was saying this to my uncle, who I saw the film with, and my mother, that the film, I think the film could benefit from a director's cut if there are extant scenes in the movie or deleted scenes, because I felt there were certain moments that just didn't flow very well. And if there isn't a director's cut, that's a pity, because I think 1 or maybe 2 or 3 more scenes of character development could have made Henry Cavill a great Superman, as opposed to me saying he's good and I want to see him in more. I think he like I said, he really does sell it. Like, there's some scene, you really see him, and he's just a moral force, and you could see him being the leader for the Justice League, in a sense. Like I said, the action sequences are intense. Like in the Krypton sequences, those are my favorite action scenes in the whole movie. There's just some great stuff there, and like, you have all this amazing technology, these winged creatures that fly. Almost makes you think of a little bit of like Utapau in Star Wars, when like Obi-Wan's riding that iguana-looking thing, but different because it's Superman. I really like they gave it almost a science fiction angle to it. And what I also really liked, something that Superman Returns did not do. You really got to see how the government and other people would react to Superman. Like, you have the U.S. Army, and they want to capture him, and he willingly surrenders because he wants to be a decent guy. And they capture him, and it's interesting because people are like, how the hell would we go about describing something like this? How, it's unfathomable, and I think they do a good job with that. Maybe they could have done a little better, but I think in comparison to the other Superman movies, you have to give David Goyer and the team thumbs up. They wrote that very well. Another thing I'd like to commend the movie on, the sense of detail. In one of the flashback sequences, you have Clark as a kid, and he can't focus. And the reason why he can't focus, because if you know Superman, he can see through objects, and he has super hearing and super senses. And he just can't concentrate because he's taking it all in at once. His teacher's trying to ask him a question, and he just freaks out. He freaks out. Totally goes, kind of goes crazy a little bit. And the same thing happens with Zod. it's not like Zod is just immune to that sort of stuff. It's like Zod has to go through a little bit of that process too, not as quickly as, not as slow as Clark does. But I think because he's a soldier, he withstands stuff. That's a lame excuse, but whatever. But I like that there was that sense of detail. Like there's a scene where Zod's helmet's taken off, and Zod has the same thing that Clark was experiencing first time. We see that in the film. He just can't focus, and he's just seeing through his own hands and seeing through things and super senses, and he just can't concentrate. And I think that was a really nice sense of detail in this film, and it really, they care about that mythos, or the mythos that they're trying to create. In terms of other performances, I forgot to mention, I was going to say Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe, for me, was the best part of this movie. He's in it a lot more than you would expect. That's because he's saved on I don't want to say hard drive, but his conscience and his essence is saved onto this device that's used throughout the film. And he's really effective as Jor-El. You really get the belief that this is a guy who really crusades for good, for, that we can be better. And I think he was a scientist on Krypton. Yeah, he was a scientist, so he knew all the technology and stuff. The woman who played Faora, who was basically Zod's, I want to say a lieutenant, she was excellent. Usually you don't have supervillain sidekicks. I've been noticing that a lot lately. You don't really have sidekicks anymore. Ever since, after Batman and Robin, it doesn't seem like we really had any superhero or supervillain sidekicks. Maybe supervillain teammates, but never really anything like Robin. Faora obviously is more than just a sidekick, though. She's a really interesting and cruel character. She believes in superior beings, and you can really see her almost being a Nazi in that sense, like the Aryan race. And one of the most chilling moments in the film is where she's fighting Superman. She's in one part she's kicking his ass, and he's just I have an evolutionary edge over you, and that is that I am willing to kill, and you're not. And it's just a very cold-blooded character. She's just great in the film. And just the way she carries herself as this character. She wears the costume very well also. That helps a lot. And you'd be surprised how much that is a part of that character, part of these characters sometimes. So that was really cool. I want to just repeat, Michael Shannon was really good. Oh, Lawrence Fishburne. I thought he was a really good Perry White. I mean, he works for the film. And this film's not really as much about the Daily Planet as it is about everything else that's going on. But there were obviously mentions of the Daily Planet because, well, Lois Lane. You have to have a Superman movie, and you have to have Lois Lane, and which means you have to tag along the Daily Planet. And then you have Jenny Olsen, who used to be Jimmy Olsen, but now it's Jenny Olsen. She's not a huge character. She's like an intern, I guess. For whatever reason they changed her, I don't know. And yeah, I'm not going to say anything about her performance. She wasn't bad or anything. She just exists in the film, if you know what I mean. She's just one of those characters I'm here. So, like I said, overall impressions of this movie. I'm going to see it tomorrow night because there are some elements that I wanted to look over. For example, there are some certain hints at the future DC universe. Just keep that in mind. Overall, very good movie, very good performances, very nice attention to detail at times. However, the action sequences get carried away at moments, and 2 or 3 more emotional scenes wouldn't have hurt. Another additional comment I want to make is that, recently David Goyer was in an interview and he talked about the future of Justice League and all these other movies, and he basically stated that Superman would be the inspiration literally for other people who are saving the world but are in hiding to come out and start like a Justice League and start saving the world. Now this might upset Batman fans because it's just oh, Batman's a loner, but you know what, I think it would be really nice to see if Batman had some inspiration from Superman, but just in a different way. He takes it to a different meaning or different level. And I think really like to see Henry Cavill in more Superman movies. Like I said right now, I felt there should have been more scenes with him. I know that sounds weird, and it's like a Superman movie, but I think he's really good as the character, and I can't wait for more. So overall, I'd say go check it out. Even if you're not a Superman fan, you should check it out because this is probably the most important movie this summer, and you probably don't even realize it because it's gonna be the start of Justice League, or make or break that. If it doesn't do well, you're not gonna see a Justice League for a very long time. So that's about it. I suggest you check it out. I'm gonna see it in 3D tomorrow, so I'm gonna relate my thoughts again tomorrow. And that's it. See you guys in Silent Film Saturday.